Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining us this hour here on One American News. I'm Malia Fifield. President Trump and the First Lady are set to take part in one of the White House's iconic traditions. The first couple will pardon the annual Thanksgiving turkey at a White House ceremony today, carrying out the annual holiday tradition, of course. The two turkeys, named Corn and Cobb, will make their appearance in the Rose Garden with only one set to be pardoned. The ceremony will start at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. President Trump says his team isn't backing down despite the GSA beginning preliminary work with Democrats. In a tweet shared on Monday night, the commander-in-chief said his legal team is continuing to pursue various cases around the nation to combat election fraud. He stated his campaign is moving full speed ahead, claiming this year's vote will go down as, quote, the most corrupt election in American political history. The president then reassured his supporters, saying that he will never concede to tactics from the left. Well, the Trump campaign is moving at full speed to battle the presidential elections of 2020 and fraud as new evidence of malfeasance continues to emerge around the nation. Here's the latest.
New evidence of voter fraud is being revealed in the state of Michigan as the Trump campaign continues to pursue legal cases to ensure a fair and free election. In a sworn affidavit from Wayne County, one Michigan election worker says they were told to falsify thousands of absentee ballots for Democrat nominee Joe Biden, stealing the vote from Republicans. According to journalist John Solomon, the election worker's affidavit proves evidence of voter fraud in a presidential election.
She is confident that thousands of ballots were backdated. But that's not the only misconduct she says she saw. Going all the way back to September when she was first assigned to the election project, she says she saw election ballots going out and having their dates changed. So you would send someone had allegedly request the ballot, you would send it out. For some reason, they were changing the record to make it look like the ballot had been sent out much earlier than the day they were actually mailing it out. In other words, they were committing fraud.
The affidavit further states election workers in the city of Detroit coached voters and urged others to vote for Biden and the Democrat Party. The election worker also said she was instructed to not validate ballots and was told to ignore any deficiencies in Democrat ballots. Solomon expects the legal testimony will help support the Trump campaign's fight against fraud in the presidential election.
She has signed this affidavit. It's been submitted in a court case. And when you hear a single city worker say thousands of ballots she witnessed, she was partaking in, she knows were fraudulent.
Meantime, the Trump campaign is dismissing state certifications of the election results. In a statement shared with the president's supporters, his campaign said certification by state officials is simply a procedural step. President Trump then tweeted on Monday night his campaign is moving full speed ahead, warning this year's vote will go down as, quote, the most corrupt election in American political history.
And the Trump campaign is also dismissing state certifications of the election results as it pursues a series of legal battles. In a statement on Monday, Trump 2020 senior legal advisor Jenna Ellis said certification by state officials is simply a procedural step. Ellis asserts they're going to, quote, continue combating election fraud around the country as a, quote, fight to count all the legal votes. She says Americans must be assured the final results are fair and legitimate. As a result of the 2020 election again do remain in dispute, One America's John Hines spoke with a hacker who is familiar with voting software to get his take on the possibility of voter fraud in multiple states. Take a look.
Michal, I know that you have a lot of experience in hacking computers. You have some experience with some of this election software. Of course, Sidney Powell, the president's lawyer, has been on the news recently. She said recently, we're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states. President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose, talking about one of these electronic vote tabulation systems. Is her statement reasonably accurate?
As to the assertion that there is mass-scale voting fraud, I can speak to that generally, and I can explain how that would work with a piece of software. In terms of the evidence for that, what I've seen so far that looks consistent with how I know these systems work is that we have witness statements of various irregularities in ballot counting. We also have known vulnerabilities that are publicly and secretly known. And what we're missing is the forensics to actually be able to prove that. So although me and Sydney are both arriving at a conclusion of concern around the election, I think we're doing it in slightly different ways.
So it is possible to massage the votes and get a result that you would want based on using some of these voting machines and software. Is that correct?
So it's possible to alter the outcome of the election by manipulating the process that the ballots are going through and the verification. It's also possible to enhance those attacks, make them more plausible by tweaking things inside the software. But what I will point out is that you don't necessarily need a hacker to tweak those things. You could just be an admin. Like I said, you can just turn off verification.
There was, I think, some sort of an advisory panel from the Department of Homeland Security, a couple of individuals who said that there's nothing to worry about, that we had the safest, cleanest election that we've ever had. Do you agree with that, sir?
No, I don't agree with that, because how would they know? The voting machines don't report back to headquarters. There's no self-diagnostic. They don't have software that sits there and sniffs out the hacker of bad behavior.
Based on what you've seen, you feel that there is some evidence, some likelihood that there's been some vote total manipulation either with the machines or the software or something. Is that correct?
Essentially, yes. Based on what I'm seeing, these things have to be investigated, and the people that are pointing to them are definitely not crazy. They are definitely pointing to something that is backed up by logical fact. Here's some facts. We know that ballot rejection rate dropped. We know that verification systems just got created. We know that verification systems are operated by humans. We know what the skew is of the ballots they're processing. So it's easy to see how somebody that's in the middle of that verification scheme might be, hey, I'm just going to let these ballots through, or if they're for a side that they know they're against, I'm going to increase their rejection rate, right? So it's that central thing opens up, those central facts open this up to a whole lot of manipulation, and the only way to confirm that is with the evidence, which so far we essentially seem to have 2 out of 3. We know about vulnerabilities, we know about eyewitness reports. What we don't know is what actually really happened, because to know that you have to security audit the machines.
Michał Pospieszalski, a hacker, something of an expert, I gather, in these voting machines. Thank you for talking to us on One America News.
Thank you, John. I'm really glad to be here.
Still ahead here on One America News, a top Apple employee is implicated